Okay, so we are doing a financial health check today, and I'm going to break down this individual situation. This is somebody within the Millionaire Club, but I am not going to name names. So I'm keeping everything anonymous. If you guys want to submit, make sure you guys submit with the link below, and you guys can actually submit your personal situation, and I may or may not get to it. I'm not going to do everybody's, obviously, but it is kind of random selection, and from time to time, I will be doing these. So with this situation, we have a 37-year-old married individual making over $100,000 a year. To give you more context, they are close to $200,000 because they just reached out to me like literally today. They have 3 children, 1, 3, and 7. On a scale of 1 to 10, they are about 5 with confidence level about their financial picture. Totally fine. That's why you're here. That's why we do what we do, and we can get you to that 10. On a scale of 1 to 10, how are you feeling about your mindset around money, which is super important as well, as a 7. They have $8,000 cash on hand. We'll get to the balance sheet in a second. That shows all their assets, but $8,000 literal cash on hand physically. They say brokerage firm they use for their investments, Ally Bank. We will talk a lot about this one. How much do they currently have in retirement assets? $8,000. They are $8,000 listed in the IRA specifically. And then non-retirement assets are $28,000, near $30,000. They have the breakout area here of taxable brokerage, business assets, equipment, business checking, and parent taxable brokerage. I want to kind of separate those, and we'll talk about that in a second. They make zero. How much money per month are you currently invested? They're doing $0 currently. They don't have this allocation, but eventually it looks like the future allocation is going to be $250 a month to the IRA. $250 to a taxable brokerage, and then $50 towards each of the 3 children. Going forward, we'll talk about that in a big way. How much current debt do they have? Non-mortgage, $470,000. This is student loans, and a little bit of credit card. We'll talk about this. And then non-mortgage debt, how is the debt allocated, and what is the interest rate of these 2 credit cards, personal and business, and then the plan is to pay those off by the 2024. And then 2 student loans are 6.25 and 6.25, 236,000, 221,000. And then on top of that, they have a universal life policy, insurance policy, cash value, and term life for her and the husband till age 95, 500,000, 58.23 a month. They don't have a tax planner. They do not have a financial advisor, and they do not have a trust or will in place. Lots to cover. That was a very complex situation. So let's walk through this, guys. The first thing I like to do is, obviously assess their balance sheet. They sent me over the no names, at least that is who sent this over to me. The no names sent me over a sheet that looks like this. It's called the balance sheet. And as part of Millionaire Club, you obviously have access to this, and you should be having this as part of your financial situation. So if you look at their cash position, a big portion of it is tied up in the business bank. So the other portion is about almost close to $8,000 between the checking and the savings. They do list business assets and other assets here. What I would highly recommend when it comes to business versus personal is keep all business separate. Business should have its own balance sheet. I highly recommend just using QuickBooks for your P&L, which is your expenses, your income and expenses. And I also recommend P&L or the balance sheet within QuickBooks for these types of assets. I would personally keep these off. They are yours in the sense they do flow through to you, but I would keep it separate because personal and business can get really muddy really quickly. So that's my first piece of actionable advice to change very fast. They also list actual cash on hand, other accounts. I would put that up in the cash section personally. And it looks like you guys do not have an HSA, so you change this section from HSA to that. Totally fine. It mentions taxable brokerage at Ally Bank. I don't know if that's actually a brokerage account, and if it is, so I use a savings account, high yield savings account through Ally Bank. If it is a brokerage account, I highly recommend to look at somebody like a Vanguard, Fidelity, or Charles Schwab as part of that. I do not like a bank of any sort for any investment purposes. There are much better options out there, and I think that would serve you very well. You look down at the Roth for the no-namers. Totally fine. 8,000. I love the Roth IRA. It's a great place. But again, Ally Bank, I think there's room for work here to shift around some investments. However, do not willy-nilly just go start sending investments over to Vanguard, Fidelity without understanding tax complications to this whole situation. We also have an IUL. You know how I feel about IULs. I personally would not have an IUL. I don't think they work for 99.9% of people. In fact, you could make the case 100% of people for the IUL side of things. That is not a shot at permanent life insurance, but permanent life insurance is meant for really, 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 really wealthy people, like billionaires, that are trying to preserve in their wealth and also, be a family bank type deal, as well as have some tax diversification at play. And there are some situations that do call for that. But anybody listening to this, you're probably not a billionaire. It's okay. I'm not either. And we don't need that. So the next piece is the parent taxable brokerage for 3 kids. I think it's totally fine, but I do not think this is a priority whatsoever. And in fact, I would pause this because we need to get your situation right before we focus on the children. You get yourself right. You put your oxygen mask on first, and your kids will come after. They'll be fine without some investment money, extra investment money. This is a very, very important thing to look at right now of your situation, not the children. The children are going to be fine. Looks like 2 cars that are paid off. We have a personal residence worth $375,000, some credit card debt, business and personal. Again, I would separate business and personal. That's how I would handle it. Our 2 student loans we talked about, as well as the liability on the house. All that being said, we have a negative net worth of $300,000, and we have an opportunity to drastically change the situation. So I'm going to walk you through it. Really quick before we get in there, we do have our student loans listed here, but I do not think these are updated. $50 minimum payments don't seem right. 5.175% do not match your initial submission. So I'm assuming this table down here is not accurate, just an FYI. Amortization schedules are awesome if they are accurate. So I think we got to fix that. And then we also have our budget, and let's zoom in into this December month because this is the most accurate month. We have our income's pretty fixed, it looks like, but I would be curious about with the income that you've listed and told me if this is reflective of this new $200,000 income, because if it is, we might have some tax things at play that aren't favorable in your position from a take-home perspective. Based on the take-home number I see here and how it's distributed, I think that's something that I would reach out to me personally about so we can discuss what's going on there. All in all, our average month is supposed to be $87.49. So that means we have $1,200, almost $1,300 left over to spend or to allocate somewhere. If we hit budget, that is the key. If this is our income, it's fixed income, we know what it is. If we hit our budget, we have this much left over. If we blow our budget, we spend $10,000. Well, we only have $40 remaining. So we are going to be extremely diligent about our budget in this situation so that we don't overspend and so that we can take this extra money and take care of all the existing liabilities that are putting us in a $300,000 deficit at this point. I had $304,000 of debt myself. I've been here, but there are options here to fix this. Now, I'm going to walk you through exactly what I would do at first. So there were some recommendations along the way that I mentioned, like I would probably fix really, really quickly. Here are some things I would look at right off the bat. So number 1 is I would turn off all investments. I know that sounds crazy, but we have these guys down here called credit cards, and these guys aren't favorable debt, and these guys will eat you alive faster than any investment can help you. Every bit of investments, which you mentioned in your onboarding right here, that you guys do not have any current investments, but I just want to reaffirm that's the case, and I would not be investing during this time. However, that does not mean we don't have an exact timeline as to when we get to investing, and we need to define precisely what that is. And so that's the first piece of advice. All investments, 401k, even pre-tax stuff, in a paycheck itself, pause entirely. Take all of that free cash flow, and this could potentially increase this income. If there is 401ks coming out, HSAs coming out type stuff out of your paycheck directly, pause. This take-home pay will increase as a result. You'll have more take-home pay, therefore this gap will grow larger, and you'll have more cash flow to use to your situation and to your bad debts to wipe that out clean very quickly. Now, I also want to show you something is our second piece is pay off all bad debt. Well, if you look at your debt, we can make a case the student loans are a bad debt, quote unquote. However, they're within reason from an interest rate perspective, but these guys are not. And so what I want to do is separate this from our personal debt payoff and our business debt payoff. This is our cash that we have available on the personal side. This is our cash we have available on the business side. If I'm looking at this across the board, I want to wipe these credit cards gone today. And so I'm going to take this Amex and this Discover, and I'm going to subtract these out because I'm paying these off today. These are done today. No more waiting. You still have $10,000, almost $11,000 cash on hand on a personal side of things. You'll be fine. It's better than having $15,000 with debt and you're paying 20, 30% interest. We're not going to play that game. On the business side, we have $11,000 cash, but we have $7,000 plus worth of debt. We are paying that off today. We're not playing games with this debt. These are credit cards that are going to hurt you long term, and they're only going to compound in the wrong direction. We want to compound in the right direction. Let's start with a fresh slate. Let's wipe this debt out right today. So if we pause our investments and we pay off this debt, we have a clean slate. We are starting from ground zero, which is a good place to be, right? My next thing is I want to save for an emergency fund because I don't feel comfortable long-term with having zero cash on hand. Short-term, I need to wipe that debt out. But what does that give us? So I'm going to keep the business separate, but our debt payoff from a percentage from a personal perspective, we're wiped clean besides the student debt. But this, I'm not going to go pay $500,000 off of debt before I get emergency funds. So I'm going to take this number and I'm going to multiply it by 3 and I'm going to multiply it by 6. I can multiply this by 2 to get the same exact answer. And I want to range anywhere for, let's just say, $25,000 to $50,000 of a 3 to 6 month emergency fund. Okay. And I know how much money we have on hand from a debt perspective. And if I look at the breakdowns of all of these right here, there actually is something I want to consider. Okay, do we have any credit cards just kind of wrapped up into that? Okay, got it. Medical bills are interesting as well. I want to talk about that because this should, if you're paying ongoing medical bills, I don't know if you're just assuming that's the case or you're actually paying a medical debt. And if you're paying a medical debt, that is not on your balance sheet, which it should be in the liability section. So if that's the case, just plot twist, we got to go here. And by the way, we used to go to Cincy Children's. That's where we lived for a long time until we moved to Texas. So I know very much about Cincy Children's, and I have a lot of tips for you how to get 50% off on your bill pay there. So please contact me. In short, you got to contact them. You got to talk about your child. You got to talk about the situation. You got to show them the bill. You got to itemize it. You got to explain that you can't pay it off right now. And then you can pay cash right this second. If they give you a discount, they typically offer a 50% discount at Cincy Children's in particular, but also multiple children's hospitals. So let's go back here and let's calculate how much we need. So we need 25 to 50,000. Let's say we're on the low end. Let's say we're at 25,000. I think that's a pretty comfortable amount, but some people feel differently. Let's say we have 25,000 is our goal. Well, we already have $10,000 on pace. So we only need $14,000 more. And if I look at our budget over here, we still only have $1,291 per month. So I have to take $1,291 and I start every single month, assuming I'm on budget, I need to go save that money. For the next 10 to 11 months, the only thing I can think about is hitting my budget and maybe increasing my income. Again, potentially you're making more income here and this gap is larger, therefore your savings for this is going to be quicker. But assuming you're there, it's going to take 11 months to be at your 3 to 6 month emergency fund level. You are going to be debt free besides the student loans, and you're going to have no issues with a cash perspective at that point in time. And your income's increasing. And based on the student loan size and the name of doctor in front of your name, I would assume that the income drastically increases pretty quickly, which is going to be a good thing. So let's say we're debt free minus the student loans. 11 months. We're in a really good company right off the bat, but now we need to begin to invest for that retirement. We no longer need to take this $1,291 and start to save it. We've saved our $25,000. We're good there. We need to incorporate this into our big picture. Now, how do we incorporate that into our big picture? I'm going to open a compound interest schedule real fast for you. And I know we only have $8,000 right now at this point in time. So $8,023, our monthly contribution can go to $1,291 at that point in time, and we're 37. So let's call it 25 years away from retirement, 27 years away, roughly speaking, at 8% returns, just to see where that puts us. And that puts us at 1.4 million. And so I don't think that's personally enough. And so I think the only thing we should be focusing on is this. However, from 37 to 65, you're going to be increasing your income quite a bit. So as these increases and raises come, we don't change lifestyle. We stay exactly the same, but we increase to our retirement balance so that we can get to a place where we feel comfortable, because we need to make sure we are in a driver's seat for retirement before anything else comes into play. We're not taking on extra debt. We're already debt free besides the student loan. We have now cleared out our bad debt. We're turned back on the investments. Our emergency fund's good. Now we need to consider paying off the student loans. And right now, the only thing I'd be doing is paying the minimum based on this situation. Again, this is what I would do in this situation. This is not advice. And so I would be paying the minimum on my student debt. I would be increasing my income. And as I increase my income, I'd be increasing that retirement until I get to a number that feels comfortable here. And that's going to be dependent on everybody's situation. Now, I do have a really cool tool, a financial freedom tool calculator that can calculate this for you. And I'll add it in the show notes below so you can do your own testing of this and what feels comfortable for you. Everybody's situation is different, so it just depends. Want to go back over here, and then the next thing is obviously creating the plan to pay off the student loans, and we got to map this out precisely with the right details, which is a huge piece of the puzzle. If we have wrong data in here, it's not going to get us to our answer, and it's not going to be accurate, and we want accurate data. So that is the next piece of this puzzle, is getting accurate data, understanding this, and as time comes, potentially adding an additional principal payment to speed this process up. I would assume this income is going to raise drastically based on the student loan amount being $400,000 to $500,000 and doctor in front of their name. I would anticipate a huge reversal of this over the next couple years. I would be shocked if we don't have that. And so that's the second last piece. The last piece I would be doing is adjusting the account lineup, which I kind of touched on as we went through these initially, is getting these over to a Vanguard, Fidelity, or Charles Schwab, getting rid of this guy right here because we are wasting a lot of money on a monthly basis on this. Not a good policy whatsoever. And then pausing this, I would assume it's already being paused, but just continue to keep that on the side and keeping this in within your name. I think that's the most important piece of the puzzle. And I think from there, I think we are setting the stage for bigger stuff to come. But in fact, I'm not going to go much deeper than this because I don't think we're at the point where we haven't gotten to the next level yet. But if we focus just on this for the next 5 years or so, just roughly speaking, the next level will come where we start to open up a huge opportunity for other things. In the meantime, one other piece of advice I would definitely consider here would be down here. I don't think a tax planner is necessary in this basic W-2 position, pretty straightforward stuff. A financial advisor, absolutely not. That's what we talk about a lot here and why we do what we do on the education side. I would consider a will in the meantime. Eventually, again, like I talked about, when we get to this new level, I would upgrade you to a trust. But right now, I think the most basic is a will and some directives. Healthcare director, healthcare power of attorney. I think those are the important things right now in case something happens in the meantime. When my wife and I first started, we started with a will and some basic directives. As we progressed, as our family grew, as the business grew, as income grew, as assets grew, we upgraded to a trust and everything changed. And so I highly recommend to put that in place, and please do not wait on this stuff because you never know what could happen. And so with that being said, I want to stop there and keep it pretty simple today because I think this is going to get us in a good spot if we focus, lock in, use these sheets religiously, and then also update these accurately at all times. And I hope this was a good review and overview of where I would go as a starting point. And then once you get to the next level, we have way more details to cover from there. And I will see you guys in the next financial health check review.